supremacy, period.
The idea that there's supposed to be so-called black unity as opposed...
So I've seen this discussion a couple of times, but I think what's going on is that the definition of certain words across cultures is not translating properly. And this isn't saying all people feel like this. I'm just saying that this could possibly be messing up the way we translate the word. Okay? The word black, the way we're defining it. As an African American, when I say black, it can mean about 4 or 5 different things. Okay? I have noticed that when people who are on the continent native to Africa, when they say black, it means something very specific. Okay, maybe 1 or 2 things, but 4. Okay, so the translation might be off. So being that we are either in Africa or in the African diaspora, or African diasporans and African, okay, we can say it like that. I think that translates better, especially when we're talking about unity, because it doesn't mean that we're supposed to have the same culture. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that we're supposed to behave the same. It doesn't mean any of that. It means that we are of the same. Africa, African diaspora. And if you look at history, something happened. And this is why history is important. Something happened. The European countries, the Arab countries, the Asian countries, they all teamed up and did the same exact thing against people who look like and are from the peoples of the same continent. Okay, those were the black African people. After all was said and done, let's say after the slave trade was over, and even during colonization, there was a team up against, around the world, people who look like all of us. So sure, human beings, no matter what the race, the skin color, should all get along, but that's idealistic, okay? And you may say everybody who is of the black race should get along. That's idealistic too. However, I'm not saying we should get along all the time, but we should understand that being so divided is never going to get us anywhere, especially when other people team up against us and have teamed up against us for 500 plus years. So when we say black, I'm African American, so I say black and I know what I mean, but maybe we should say of the African diaspora of Africa, okay? Because that is a continental geographical type thing. And being that there are immigrants and there are people that are indigenous and there are people, blah, blah, blah. If your skin color looks like mine, that's a couple strikes against you as soon as you step out into another area. The fact is, we should treat each other better no matter what. We should stand with each other and back each other up, because there are a lot of countries in Europe. There are a lot of countries around this world, basically. And the one thing, if you notice, certain people of different countries stick together a lot better, even though they have different cultures and backgrounds, because that's how they have been taught to do. That's facts. I have the book of one of the people who used that tactic. And that's why we're in the position we are in today. Now, yes, Africa had their different kingdoms, ethnic kingdoms. I know all about that. Okay. And they did their own things. And yes, they sold off different peoples from neighboring tribes, sometimes within their tribes. During the slave trade, it was all mixed up. But again, that's another thing. It goes back to the division. With so many divisions, anyone can take advantage of you. Anyone, anywhere. Real easy. It's too many divisions. It's way too many. That's what happened. That was one of the things that happened back in the, I believe, 1700s. It was written about in the newspapers in Europe because they're really good at documenting things. And one of the people who were talking about what they did was they said that they noticed, they watched the divisions. And if you have people who don't really get along, you can scoot in there. You can scoot in there. That's something that the African people were not doing to the Europeans. They were really inspecting and watching African people and African descendants. So much down to even, okay, if you look like this, we're going to treat them better. If you look like this, we're going to treat them better. And we're going to cause a little division here. It was that calculated. And then there were the African leaders back in the day during the slave trade who didn't see things how the Europeans saw things. The Europeans saw everybody is like this. And they didn't, the African leaders apparently didn't realize that we're about to be taken. So they just kept on taking other African people and giving them to Europeans. African people and giving. Europeans weren't giving Europeans to Africans. See that? Chinese people Asian people weren't giving Asian people to Africans. And see, that's the difference. That's the difference. It's too much division. Too much. It's not saying that we're going to be the same. I'm African American. I like being African American. I like who I am. I like my people. I like my culture. But that doesn't mean that my cousin over here in Nigeria, I love any less. And I shouldn't have his back because what, he's Nigerian? No. Especially when it comes to global things that are going on. Global. Because sure, humanity's all supposed to get together and love one another and la 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 la. But look at reality. The only way anything will move for black people is if black people move as a unit. When I say black people, there it goes again. I'm African American, African diaspora. So that's what I believe the lady was talking about. I believe. It all comes first with realizing that. And I think African Americans just have that view is because that's what happened with us over here. We all became one. All the different tribes that we're made of, because we're made of plenty in one body, we all became one over here. So we see it as a one and moving as a unit. Not becoming like each other, just knowing how to move as a unit to get things done. Because that's what we've had to do over here.